My name is Brooke Rutledge, and at 33 years old, I spent every dollar I had on a gas station that my entire family considered a dead end. The day I signed the paperwork, my mother looked me in the eye and called me a fool. My father stared at the wall and said nothing. My brother Wade laughed and told me I was a hopeless failure. Before the ink had even dried, they were already gone. A week later, I found myself standing behind that abandoned convenience store in the dark, staring at a steel door someone had deliberately hidden behind a wall. What I discovered beyond that wall didn't just change my future. It completely rewrote the story my family had been telling about itself for 40 years. And when I finally spoke the truth out loud at my father's own gala, the entire room fell silent. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, the channel where ordinary women set firm boundaries, keep their dignity intact, and allow the truth to speak for itself. If you enjoy stories about quiet comebacks, you're in the right place. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and subscribe so you won't miss the next story. The title company in Calico Bend only had one conference room, and that morning my entire family managed to fill it. I never found out exactly how they learned about the closing. Most likely Dale. My father, Garrett Rutledge, walked in as if he were inspecting a construction site. My mother, Lorraine, sat across from me with her purse resting in her lap as though she might leave at any moment. In front of me sat a cashier's check for $41,000. Every dollar I had saved over 11 years. The escrow officer slid the deed across the table. My mother spoke quietly but clearly. "You're throwing your life away." I removed the cap from my pen. My father never even sat down. He stood by the window with his back toward me. "Real Rutledges build things," he said. "They don't dig through other people's trash." The comment landed exactly where he intended. Wade leaned against the doorway with his arms folded, wearing the kind of grin that said he was enjoying every second. "You know what you are, Brooke?" he asked. "A hopeless failure." I signed my name. The surprising part was that my hand never shook. The escrow officer cleared her throat and asked whether I wanted the recorded deed mailed or emailed. "Both," I answered. My family walked out. My father never looked back. Through the window, I watched his truck pull out of the lot. Wade followed behind him. Then my mother's sedan. 3 sets of taillights disappeared toward town and the life that no longer had a place for me. I remained alone with the deed to a dead gas station 10 minutes up Route 9 and a bank account that now held exactly $84.06. There was no scenario where I got that money back. I had already won the only argument that mattered and lost everyone in the process. Around town, people saw me as the Rutledge who couldn't keep her life together. The truth was much less dramatic and far more disappointing. For 6 years, I handled the books for Rutledge Land and Holdings, my father's company, and I was good at my job. Then came a land deal in 2019 involving a strip parcel off the county road. The numbers Wade wanted entered into the books didn't match the numbers that had actually moved. I flagged the discrepancy twice in writing. He told me to leave it alone. According to him, I didn't understand how deals worked. When county officials started asking questions, my initials appeared throughout the paperwork, while Wade's fingerprints were nowhere to be found. My father believed his son. I didn't fight back the way I should have. At the time, publicly fighting your own family felt like setting fire to your own house. So I left. I opened Rutledge Bookkeeping, a one-woman operation in a rented office on 2nd Street. For 2 years, I worked honestly for honest clients, and for a while it almost succeeded. Then my largest client, a contractor who owed me 8 months of unpaid fees, filed for bankruptcy and took my profit with him. By March, I had closed the office. I'm the type of person who reads the fine print twice and still apologizes for taking up space. An old supervisor once called it being overly responsible. I carry other people's mistakes as though they are debts I personally owe. That weakness was something my family never noticed because it always benefited them. So when Dale Mercer approached me with a property nobody wanted, something cheap enough that a woman with $84 and a damaged reputation could actually own outright, I listened. What I should have asked myself was why he seemed so eager to help. To be fair, I did ask. It simply took me longer than expected to discover the real answer. Dale Mercer made a living flipping properties around Calico Bend. He bought neglected places cheaply, covered the problems, and sold them to buyers who never looked closely enough. He had done work for my father over the years, which should have been warning enough. One morning, he slid into my booth at the diner on Route 9 and told me he had the perfect opportunity. The old Howard Station, closed since 1987. Asking price, $41,000. Land alone is worth more than that, he said. The estate owners back east just want it gone. It sounded a little too simple, and I knew it. So I did my homework. I pulled the title records myself and traced every transfer back to the 1930s. The title was clean, no liens. I contacted the state regarding the underground fuel tanks because abandoned stations can become environmental disasters. Records showed the tanks had been removed and certified clean in 1991. I walked the property twice. I paid $200 I couldn't really spare for a retired inspector named Pete to give it a quick look. The bones are solid, he told me. The roof is the real problem. Everything checked out. The price was low, but the property sat on a forgotten stretch of road and belonged to a tired estate looking for a quick sale. The numbers made sense. I bought it because it was the only opportunity I could afford, and because, for once, I wanted something that belonged entirely to me before anyone else could claim ownership over it. My parents showed up at the station 2 days later, and that alone said a lot. In the 3 weeks since I bought the place, neither of them had bothered to come see what their daughter had actually purchased. My father stepped out of his truck and looked around with a different expression than the one he wore at closing. The contempt was gone. Now there was calculation. My mother brought a casserole, which is exactly what she brings whenever she wants something. "We've been worried about you out here by yourself," she said, holding the dish like a peace offering. My father wandered across the lot, studying the building, the highway, and the way the sunlight hit the property. "Good frontage," he said, mostly to himself. "Always was." Then, casually, as though the thought had just occurred to him, he finally got to the point. "Brooke, a property like this has tax considerations, liability issues too. It's a lot for one person to handle. We could fold it into holdings, keep it in the family, make sure you're protected on the paperwork." Protected. I nearly laughed. 3 weeks earlier, I was a hopeless failure digging through trash. Now my father wanted to protect me with a quitclaim deed. I asked directly where they had heard the property was worth protecting. My mother's eyes shifted toward my father for only a moment, but it was enough. Dale. Dale had called someone. And that someone was now standing in my gravel parking lot holding a casserole and offering paperwork. "I'm fine handling the paperwork," I said. "It's the one thing I've always been good at." My father's jaw tightened. He didn't argue. Not yet. They left the casserole behind and drove back toward town. I stood alone in my lot and realized something important. The laughing had stopped. The Rutlets had decided the gas station was valuable, and once they decided that, they also decided it was worth taking. I found it the following night, and it changed everything. The old desk against the far wall of the cellar was bolted to the floor. Behind it, set low into the stone, was a small iron door I hadn't noticed before. It wasn't much larger than an oven. It took nearly an hour to free the rusted hinge. When it finally opened, inside sat a brass-cornered strongbox, green with age and surprisingly heavy. I carried it upstairs and opened the latch. The lid released with a soft sigh, along with the smell of dry paper that had been preserved for decades. Inside were Ann Howard's records. A bonded warehouse manifest from the distillery listed cases by lot number and proof, stamped and dated 1924. There was also a federal bond permit for the warehouse. Beneath those papers, folded carefully in oilcloth, were the two documents that mattered most: a promissory note dated 1931 and a bill of sale from the same year. Attached to them was the deed for this very property. Ann Howard's signature appeared clearly on the seller's line. I read the buyer's name 3 separate times before it finally settled in my mind. Amos Ruttled, my grandfather. The man everyone said arrived in Calico Bend with nothing and eventually owned half of Main Street. The story wasn't quite that simple. Tucked behind those papers was a county foreclosure notice from 1933. Together, the documents told a story that was impossible to ignore. The note had been written in Amos Rutledge's own hand. He had loaned Howard money against the warehouse during one of the worst years of the Depression. The interest rate would be considered predatory by most standards today. The balance was due within 90 days. The bill of sale and foreclosure documents filled in the rest. When Howard failed to pay, Amos took ownership of the land, the building, and everything inside it for the value of the debt. Everything inside it. Except Amos apparently never discovered the seller. The bonded room had already been sealed by the time he gained possession. And a man eager to build a respectable reputation doesn't usually start tearing into his own walls. I sat at the counter, holding evidence of the first major lie my family had built itself upon. The fortune my father was so proud of, the family name this town respected so deeply. It all started right here, inside the room my father had dismissed as someone else's trash. Another person might have driven straight to my father's house and dropped those papers on his kitchen table. Part of me wanted to. I sat in my car outside the station for 20 minutes considering it, but experience had taught me that the satisfying choice and the smart choice are rarely the same thing. And my family had always been strongest when conflicts happened loudly and emotionally, so I handled it the only way I knew, by the book. The next morning, I scanned every document front and back. I saved copies in 3 separate locations. Then I drove the originals to a bank 2 towns away where no Ruddled had ever done business and placed them in a safe deposit box under my name. I sent the bonded manifest and the 1924 permit to the appraiser in Denver. His response came quickly. He called the documentation extraordinary. According to him, it would authenticate the entire collection beyond dispute. After that, I visited the county recorder's office and pulled my deed once again along with the complete chain of title. I verified the one fact that would matter when the arguments eventually began. I owned the property, free and clear, purchased with my own money, recorded in my own name, no lien, no cosigner, no Ruddled attached anywhere. The 1931 bill of sale didn't change my ownership, not even slightly. What it changed was whose story this really was. I assembled a folder like the ones I used to prepare during audits. Organized, labeled, easy to follow, deed, title chain, manifest, permit, appraisal, bill of sale. I didn't need to defeat my father in an argument. I needed solid documentation. And for the first time in my life, in the one skill I had always been criticized for despite excelling at it, I possessed more proof than he did. Wade arrived next. My father never throws the first punch himself. He sends someone else. My brother walked into the station wearing his company jacket and polished boots. He looked around the building as though he was evaluating its market value. "Heard you've been busy," he said. Unlike my mother, he didn't bring a casserole. He went directly to the offer, wrapped in concern. Holdings would buy the property at a fair price. Take the burden off my shoulders. Keep it in the family where it belonged. When I refused, the concern disappeared immediately. "You don't understand," he said. "That land has history with this family, Granddad's history. If you sell whatever you found on Ruddled property, that isn't just your decision. There's a moral issue there. People will see it that way." A moral issue. I almost had to admire the effort. I asked what history he was referring to, and Wade, who had never been able to resist proving he knew more than me, took the bait. "You think I don't know about Old Man Howard?" he asked. "Dad told me the whole story years ago. Granddad got that place fair and square in '33. Fair and square. He said it smoothly enough. Too smoothly, because I was already holding the foreclosure notice that suggested otherwise. Still, the mistake had been made, and I added it to everything else. The Ruddleds knew. They had always known. For generations, they had simply repeated the same story until it became accepted as truth. Before leaving, Wade told me I had until Founders Day to be reasonable. I didn't ask why Founders Day mattered. I already suspected the answer. My father came alone the next evening. That had never happened before. He found me sweeping the front room at sunset and stood quietly in the doorway for a long moment, an aging man framed against the orange sky. For once, he didn't begin with judgment. "I used to drive past here when I was a kid," he said. "Your grandfather would bring me. He'd sit in the truck and just stare at the place." He stepped inside and ran his hand across the dusty counter. For a moment, something in his expression softened. "For 40 years, he said, I built this town, every road out there, half the houses. Then he paused. And do you know what they'll remember 20 years from now? Nothing. They'll hang a plaque somewhere and forget your face. For a brief second, I understood. I saw the fear underneath everything. A man terrified that one day he would become a stranger in the very town he spent his life building. Something in me started to open toward him, and then he closed it himself. That's exactly why family has to stay together, he said. The softness disappeared and the familiar grip returned. Whatever you found out there, it's a ruddled matter now. Then he got to the point. At the gala, you'll do the right thing. You'll stand up there and tell everyone the family is handling this together. This town remembers who built it, Brooke. Don't make them remember the wrong name. There it was, not a father speaking to his daughter. A man protecting a monument and using his daughter as part of the defense. And if I don't? I asked. He looked at me with an expression that was somewhere between a threat and a request. Then you'll learn how short a Ruddled's memory can be, he said. Then he turned and walked into the darkness. I stood there holding the broom and finally understood. The gala wasn't an invitation. It was an ambush, and I was supposed to be the surprise ending. The appraisal arrived the following Tuesday. I read the email 4 times while standing in my kitchen. The Denver auction house had reviewed the photographs, inventory records, warehouse manifest, and bond permit. They had also sent a specialist to the station under a signed confidentiality agreement. He spent 6 hours examining the cellar. When he came back upstairs, he was pale and smiling. The collection was authentic. The wax seals were intact. The contents matched the 1924 manifest down to the lot numbers. Authenticated bonded whiskey from before repeal, supported by a documented chain of custody from the distillery to the warehouse and finally to me. That chain of documentation was the most valuable part. According to the auction house, a conservative estimate placed the collection above $1 million. Several historically significant bottles could bring considerably more. I carefully set my phone on the counter. Then I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets and allowed myself exactly 5 minutes to feel it. $1 million. Me, the hopeless failure. The woman with $84 in her account and a damaged reputation, sitting on a fortune hidden inside a building my father called a grave. 5 minutes later, I stood up, because a number like that doesn't make you safe. It makes you a target. I had already seen what my family would do over a property worth $40,000. I knew what they would do over this. The appraisal wasn't the finish line. It was the starting point. The only thing standing between me and the people who had spent my entire life convincing me I was nothing was a folder full of paperwork and a level of stubbornness I had inherited from the very family now coming after me. So I started digging into why Dale Mercer had sold me a fortune for $41,000. Once I knew where to look, the answer came quickly. I called the estate that had sold me the station. The tired heirs Dale had mentioned. A granddaughter answered. She was polite and slightly confused. According to her, they had originally listed the property a year earlier for $65,000. No one had shown interest. Then a local fixer contacted them and offered to help by finding a buyer for $41,000. A buyer he already had lined up. They had appreciated the assistance. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I sat quietly with the information. Dale hadn't found me an opportunity. He had found a cheap property and a desperate Ruddle to hold it temporarily. He convinced me to waive the inspection contingency so backing out would be difficult. He expected me to fail. Expected me to run out of money. Expected the station to become another distressed property he could reclaim and resell. And the buyer he supposedly had lined up, the person he called after leaving the diner, the same person suddenly interested in bringing a worthless gas station into the family. There was only one developer in the county who wanted that frontage. I had grown up at his dinner table. Dale and Wade had likely been talking from the beginning. The plan was simple. Set me up to fail on Ruddled land, then buy it back clean. The one thing none of them expected was that the failure would keep digging. When Dale called later that week to see whether I was interested in selling, I listened patiently through his entire pitch. Then I said, "You bet on me failing, Dale. That was your first mistake." And I hung up. Now I had a decision to make, not the obvious one. I could sell the collection, take the money, disappear. Part of me wanted exactly that, a quiet place somewhere green where I would never hear the name Ruddled again. But that would leave them with the land, the story, and the satisfaction of watching me walk away. So instead, I made a different plan, the kind I'm actually good at. Around midnight, I filled a legal pad with notes. The collection would be auctioned publicly through Denver. Clean, documented, transparent. No one would ever be able to claim it was family property hidden away in secret. And I would keep the station, not as a convenience store, as something larger. For months, I had quietly spoken with a developer named Sutter from the neighboring county. He had wanted access to Calico Bend for years, but had been blocked repeatedly by Ruddled land and holdings. He saw potential where others saw an abandoned building, a restored station, a destination. A roadside landmark worth visiting. My father's oldest rival standing on land my father desperately wanted. There was a certain justice in that situation that required no effort from me. Years later, people still asked why I didn't simply sell everything back and take the easy money. The answer is simple. Easy money offered by people who spent years calling you worthless always comes with their name attached. I wasn't signing that receipt, so I called Sutter and told him I was ready to have a serious conversation. Then I told the auction house to schedule a date. After that, I began building the only protection that would matter once my family finally stepped into the open. Not a weapon, a stack of signatures. For 2 weeks, I did nothing my family could see and everything that mattered. I signed the auction consignment agreement with Denver, a real contract, a real date. The collection legally committed to public sale under my name. I signed a letter of intent with Sutter for redevelopment of the station. My ownership appeared clearly on the first page. Then I hired an attorney from 2 towns away, someone no Ruddled had ever influenced. He reviewed the title records and confirmed in writing exactly what I already knew. The property and everything inside it belonged to me alone, free of any competing claim. Every document went into the folder, behind the deed, behind the manifest, behind the 1931 bill of sale. My family fought with whispers, pressure, suggestions that I owed them something. My father quietly spread the story around town that his troubled daughter had stumbled onto an opportunity and the family was helping her manage it. Wade hinted that questions remained about how I had acquired Ruddled property. They had a story, polished, comfortable, easy to believe, and they were very good at stories. After all, they had built an entire legacy around one, but stories only go so far. Eventually, they meet signatures, and I had the signatures. Every time the pressure increased, I added another tab to the folder: deed, title opinion, consignment agreement, letter of intent, bill of sale. While they talked, I built a wall of documentation so complete and so straightforward that charm alone could never get past it. That was always the difference between us. My family relied on the room, I relied on the record, and for the first time in my life, the record was entirely on my side.